Hey everyone, this is Snark with Snark's Domain. Today I'll be testing out EVGA's thermal putty. It's pretty impressive. I'm a little bit shocked that I didn't test this before now. So yeah, stay tuned. Alright, so this putty has been kind of a hidden gem, even though it wasn't really hiding. I guess I never tested it before now because I assumed it was not going to be as high performing as it actually is. And also it didn't have any specs listed, so when I was trying to hunt for replacement thermal putties for TGPP10, this was kind of like came across my scope, but I didn't really pay too much attention to it just because I didn't think it was going to be this good. But it's quite good. So yeah, I did some hotplate testing, and here you can kind of see what my setup looks like before I squish down the copper block on top. Those are 2mm ball bearings that I use to use a consistent gap. You can also see little divots that I had punched next to the threaded holes there. I never ended up using those just because a 2mm ball in there actually ends up being sunk down too deep to keep it around that 1.9. So that had been my original plan for this setup. But anyways, let's get into the hot plate testing and then we'll talk about the results afterwards. Alright, so in this test, the sensor block reached 100 degrees Celsius in 5 minutes and 2 seconds, which puts it pretty much on par with TH949-1, or at least within a stone's throw of there on the hot plate test. But that's not the whole story, because we've got to test it on a card. So what I did is I took apart my Zotac 3070 Ti, the same one that I did all the testing of the other thermal pads and putties and shims on, and cleaned it up really good. I actually took the Kapton tape off, and because it was a couple of the pieces were coming off, they weren't adhering to the card. Otherwise, I just figured I would do a good solid cleanup before I did this test. Then I applied the EVGA putty onto the VRAM and kept the TGPP10 everywhere else, just as in the other testing. And I mined on it for an hour. In this case, I was using Ethereum Classic, so ETC hash, with the same overclocks and same hash rate as it would have been with when I was mining Ethereum. So here you can see it's got an impressive 50 degrees Celsius on the core and 80 degrees Celsius on the VRAM. That's crazy. That's very good. Now, my basement might be 2 degrees cooler right now than it would have been when I did the testing before. I just don't have as much stuff on, which, for obvious reasons. All right, so here's the updated chart. Basically, EVGA thermal putty comes in 4th place. Maybe it would be between Upsiren and Pentium if I accounted for the 1 or 2 degrees Celsius cooler basement. So yeah, I might have to test this further in slightly warmer conditions and see if these temperatures hold up. But that's super impressive. This definitely puts EVGA's putty at least tied with Penchem's TH949-1 putty. So that is awesome. I mean, you guys can buy a small tube of this stuff, and I used approximately 2 8-gram syringes on this card, if just on the VRAM itself. So if you were using this with shims, which would be should work great, then you could probably get away with just a single tube, just because it's like very thin layers that you need, at least for this card. If you were using a 3090 that's got 24 VRAM chips, then you're going to need more putty. But yeah, this is great news for us all. It means we've got options going forward. Yeah, so if you guys have EVGA cards and you're planning on opening them up to swap them to whatever, I mean, whatever you want to use, that's fine. I would not throw this putty out. I would at least salvage it and put it in a Ziploc bag for now. If you ever went to shims, this would be the perfect putty to use for that. So yeah, anyways, hopefully you guys found this information useful, and I'll see you guys on the next one.